Hey guys, what's up? It's me, Thomas. Tonight we're back here with, well, the history of Power Rangers from Linkara. We're actually on the second to last one for a while. It's on Power Rangers Time Force, or Time Rangers as they're known in the Sentai. I do know some things, but I'm probably gonna just bring them up as we get along. So we're just gonna go ahead, hop in, and just enjoy ourselves with the timelining adventures. So be sure to like, subscribe for more. Hope you enjoyed. Let's go.
I hope that the people who open this time capsule in the future
live
in a peaceful and friendly world.
Not really.
With no hatred.
Hey, Kim. Oh.
No prejudice.
Billy.
No crime.
Sydney. Hey.
And no wars.
Hey. And sorry, my Morphin, you're gonna have to wait a few more years. Ooh.
Think it'll ever happen?
Yeah, I do.
The future is full of surprises.
Thank you.
Welcome, my friends, to Power Rangers Time Force.
Go, Power Rangers! Who's tabbing? Nice.
The season begins with a narration explaining that 1,000 years in the future, peace has been attained and there are no more wars or traffic accidents, and that it's apparently thanks to the Time Force organization. Not sure how an organization devoted around time travel is responsible for this. Unless they're actually the Eternity organization that Isaac Asimov based a novel around. Anyway, one criminal remains, Ransik, who attempts to construct a time machine when he's confronted by a Red Ranger, a member of the Time Force. The two fight, and we get to see right away that Ransik is a formidable fighter. However, the Red Ranger, Alex, emerges triumphant and Ransik is placed on trial, a mysterious pink-haired woman smiling at him. So I guess in the future, we still have people way too into true crime perpetrators. Alex proposes to the pink Time Force Ranger named Jennifer, or Jen.
Hey, Jen.
It's a good thing that they're in the totally peaceful future where no heartbreak or tragedy could possibly occur after this.
3,
Ransik
2,
is found
1.
guilty and sentenced to be cryogenically frozen for the rest of his life. On the way to the prison, the pink-haired woman stops them and attacks the team guarding him. She's actually a human ice cream cone named Nadira and just happens to be Ransik's daughter. Ransik's people manage to knock over his transport and free him. You know, it is the 31st century. I don't know why they didn't entrust this job to the Legion of Superheroes. Anyway, the four contact...
Also, surprised they don't have, like, a way to just, like, instantly transport them. Like, don't they have, like, teleportation yet? Again, they got access to the Rangers stuff, and they know how to teleport. So, not sure why the convoy is there. Sheesh. I mean, at some point, they were just begging for them to get ransacked. And free Ransik. I mean, you gotta expect that to happen. Anyway.
Their superior officer, who is quite pissed that he managed to escape.
Do you realize how long it took us to capture him? You're all officially relieved of your duties.
God, what a
Well,
dick. He doesn't even want to
sorry.
hear the details of the escape so they know who to look out for. Ransik travels to the cryo
Frax.
prison, which actually turns people into action figures before they're stored. Anyway, after passing up
Yeah, I
on
guess
reviving
save
Simon
space.
Phoenix, Ransik gets to work attaching a time travel device to the prison. The Ranger's green-haired telepath named Trip detects what's happening at the prison, and they give chase, commandeering a vehicle to the objection of the driver.
Jen, you have to be polite.
Let me guess. Just yanks out. Yep.
That's Katie.
That's polite.
I like
I hate
Katie.
to see her
The fourth
rude.
member of the team is Lucas, but he doesn't really do anything during the first 3 episodes.
So it's
or
just
much
along
of
for
the
the
series,
ride?
in fact. Alex rushes up to the prison and fights Ransik, but the villain
Again.
mortally wounds Alex before escaping. In his
the
last
back,
moments,
too.
Alex gives Jennifer his chronomorpher and makes her swear to capture Ransik.
Get him, girl. Go get him, girl.
Ransik vanishes into the time stream, and the Rangers commandeer a time ship to go back and find him. By the way, their method of time travel is to have a big robot hit their ship, which sends them through the portal. And what's
88
sad is that with
per hour.
police boxes, DeLoreans, and hot tubs, this is not the weirdest way I've seen to travel through time. Ransik arrives in the year
weirder.
2001.
Code 45, semi-automatic. Play-Doh.
This is probably a good time to talk about the theme
Tornado.
song. I've got to say, at first I wasn't fond of it, but it grew on me really fast. I think my initial problem with it is that it sounded a bit atonal, but once you get to the instrumentals and the timeless wonders bit, it really starts to rock. Well, I should also mention
Iron
that the
Thunder?
team has traveled with their robot buddy Circuit, an owl who will be the alpha of the season. Anyway, the team
Again,
crashes on a
Sentai
beach in the year 2001,
accurate, actually.
and the
You'd be
ship's going to
surprised.
explode thanks to the damage, and they quickly vacate it before it goes kablamo. They're close to a city called Silver Hills, and Jen distributes the chronomorphers, which are DNA
In
locked to the
public,
Rangers
apparently.
so that only they can use them. I like the chronomorphers. Pretty nice and simple design, though I admit I always prefer morphers that flip open to ones that don't. This does beg a question,
Yeah,
though, that's never
simple
answered in the
design.
series. Does
Go.
every member of Time Force have a chronomorpher, or are the morphers something that the Force stole along with the time ship? They search for any signs of...
I mean, I could see him, like, you know, stealing the chronomorphers, considering, you know, Chief said they were relieved of duty and all that, and so far, we only see the Red Ranger. So, I'm pretty sure those morphers are pretty much for the best of the best, so, yeah, you can see what's up. And also, the fact they just walk in, like, just obvious, like, out-of-place clothing. I mean, Trip has got a gem in his head. I mean, if that doesn't scream weirdos, or at least, better keep an eye on them or someone to note. Yeah, not the brightest bulb, so I gotta say, you know, I mean, again, right, it's not their fault, but yeesh. Makes you wonder how bad's the organization. I mean, look, they can't catch one guy, and they don't even hire extra protection just to transport the guy. What the hell? Anyway.
Ransik, and Jen briefly bumps into Wes Collins, Alex's ancestor that looks just like him
Wes.
because wibbly-wobbly, timey-wimey
Timey-wimey
drama. Nadira, in the
shenanigans.
meantime, robs a jewelry store with the season's foot soldiers, the Cyclobots. The Cyclobots
Which,
are apparently
again,
a very peppy
close
bunch,
to
since they
Sentai.
like to skip and dance as they move around, along with this weird arm swing. The Rangers
Again,
intercept
robots.
Nadira and try to morph, but they fail to activate.
Yeah,
Our heroes put up a
DNA
decent
locked.
fight, but they're outclassed by the robots. Jen is saved by Wes, and it should be noted that there's some really good acting this season, and Jen's reaction to Wes really encapsulates it.
Oh, what's the matter? You
Yo.
look like you just seen a ghost.
Oh shit, it's
Circuit
far off.
discovers that the other morphers won't work without the red one being active, but that's coded to Alex's DNA. Since they need someone with close enough DNA, they decide Wes is their best bet. This is a
Also,
huge stretch,
big design
since 1,000
flaw.
years should make Wes's DNA completely unrecognizable to Alex's, spatiogenetic multiplicity notwithstanding, but this is Power Rangers, where we can breathe in space, so I guess we're going with this. Wes is a rich kid who lives with his overbearing dick of a father, who runs a company called Biolabs, and runs
Keep an eye
off
on
with
that
Jen
one.
at
It's
the
gonna
first
be
chance he
important.
gets. Jen explains the situation about them being from the year 3000 and needing his help.
We think
Get
you may be
tact,
the only
my
one
friend.
who can unlock these morphers so we can defeat them.
Wes naturally doesn't believe her, but when
I
Ransik
wouldn't.
launches another attack, the Rangers regroup and fight. He easily knocks them all down. Oh, and did I mention that Ransik can make swords from his bones that he pulls out of his body? Wonder if he has to put them back
Youch.
in, or if he has, like, an infinite supply of bone swords that he can
I'd
turn
say
into
just
a
a
thriving
really
business.
great
Ransik
regeneration
rubs in the
factor.
fact that he killed Alex, but Wes comes in to help. He puts on the morpher, and it's time.
Ready?
Ready! Time for? Time for!
In the original version of this video, I actually completely forgot to talk about the Time Force suits, and the morphing sequence itself, which is just fine. As for the suits, I overall like them. The suits are back to a much better balance of color and white, but what's really unique about them
Again,
compared to
primary
previous
colors being
suits is
more,
the helmet.
you know,
Instead of
dominant
the
here.
standard black for the visor, it's their individual colors. I wonder how much of a pain that was for
Actually,
the Force
there's
stunt
symbols,
actors
too.
in them. I've never worn a Time Force helmet before, but I've got to imagine it's a bit different with a big color filter in front of their eyes, rather than just everything a bit darker, even when it comes to stunt helmets that have less visors and more a ton of tiny holes drilled into them. The helmets also
I mean, maybe it's see-through paint or something? I don't know how those work, to be honest. Is there a way to actually test that? I mean, oof, not sure if it actually fit my big head. I'm sorry, but I pretty do like the hat over there. Yeah, that's kind of a special order from one of my family friends, so... yeah, you can see what's up, right? Not sure if I fit in those, but ow. Plus I said. Anyway,
Also have black as the secondary color instead of white, which does work,
Also
though I do wonder if
silver
it
line
shouldn't
down
have
the
been
middle
better
for
for them
red,
to
I
be white
think.
to match the colors
I
on
gotta
the
look
suit
at the other
itself.
ranges again.
Ransik and his forces withdraw for the time being. Jen takes
they do.
away Wes's morpher, since they only needed his help to unlock the morphers, and they go their separate ways. Following the Force from
Again,
the Future two-parter, we learn that Ransik is suffering from a condition that seems to be mutating the more deformed areas of his body. The other Rangers search through the wreckage of their ship for supplies and receive a transmission from Captain Logan, the head of the Time Force. He stopped being a douche and informs them that with the time ship destroyed, the group isn't going to receive any backup, though they will be able to send weapons back to them. Wait, if they only have one time ship, why the hell are the police forces of the future called Time Force? Or did they just decommission and dismantle all the other ships because the future is supposed to be a utopia or something? Wes, spotting...
Well, that, or they're just making sure that, you know, no one messes with the time stream too much, because, let's be real, someone accidentally leaves a time-traveling, like, vehicle around, you know someone's gonna go hijack that thing and mess with the time stream. So, at least that's what I remember from, I think, if you know about anything about time travel kind of things, like, usually don't have a lot of options with that, so, like I said, it's always important to make sure there's not too many rogue, like, time travel vehicles around. But anyway, looks like Wes is about to join permanently.
Nadira and the Cyclobots robbing a bank, which makes a little more sense than Divatox's efforts, since at least Ransik's forces are from Earth, and decides to intervene. After getting his ass kicked, the Rangers save Wes and drag him off, berating him for treating their situation like a game. Trip is actually on board with the idea of making him the Red Ranger, but since Jen is the one in charge, they follow her lead. Trip later goes to see Wes in private and explains to him about Alex and how his appearance complicates things for her. Wes meets up with the other Rangers and pleads with Jen to join up.
And unless we stop Ransik, neither of us will have a future. Please, let me help you.
Ransik reanimates one of the criminal monsters. Detecting trouble, the Rangers head out to fight it, Jen offering Wes a chance to join in. The Rangers use their supersonic jet, that I guess they can shrink and store with mutant particles or whatever, to head to the fight. When Wes strikes the monster with his chronal saber, he cuts off a part of the monster's flesh, exposing its mutant DNA and causing it to grow. So in the future, we can shrink jets, but mutated DNA, when exposed to air, makes something grow big. Even for it being stuff from the future, it feels like Power Rangers likes to give science a wedgie. Though I suppose we shouldn't expect to see Ransik tossing a magic wand at his monsters to make them grow. Circuit contacts Captain Logan, and they send the Time Force Megazord out to them. This Megazord is made up of 5 jets, and they control it with, their swords. So in the future, we've abandoned the idea of buttons in favor of swords.
Concentrate!
Okay, future science or not, I call BS on that. Oh, and can you guess what movie came out a year before the Sentai this footage comes from?
And, yep. Matrix again. Not even trying. You're not even trying to hide the Matrix references here.
The Megazord, which looks a bit more low-key than a lot of Megazords we've had before, also has alternate fight modes and always has to return to the future because they don't have the resources to maintain and refuel them in 2001. Which begs the question of why they can't send reinforcements via the Zords, or use the Zords as a way of returning to the future for more equipment at least. The monster is destroyed, and by destroyed, I mean turned into a toy so it can be a proper collectible again in the cryo prison. With their victory...
Well, if I remember back in the Sentai, they were always called, like, refreeze modes, so I think that was actually part of the thing. They were pretty much squeezed back into those little, figures. So they can be cryogenically frozen once again, which, I mean, not sure why they just don't destroy them, but, then again, I mean, it's an interesting, like, alternative to just basically blowing them up. So, I never really understood that. Like, why refreeze them? Like, I mean, Ransik controls the thing that unleashed it. Actually, I just disproved myself, so I guess Ransik's just pretty much sending them out one at a time, which I'm guessing the machine can only do one a day, I think. I don't know. Usually a recharge, I think. But anywho,
Jen decides to let Wes stay on as the Red Ranger. He sets the group up in an abandoned clock tower, subletting from some woman in a wheelchair who keeps talking to Batman, which they spruce up to be more livable. For some reason, they install the bell in the tower, which seems like a bad call considering they're gonna, you know, live inside of it and all. But I guess they have no other place to put it. It seems the clock tower also used to have an odd jobs business working out of it before, and they make it into a business so the four can have money. Wes is kidnapped by Ransik, who explains his backstory. In the future, genetic engineering allowed for children to be born with so-called perfect DNA and would be free of disease and deformity. The ethics of this are debatable, but not really the kind of thing you usually talk about in a kids show about people in spandex punching rubber-suited monsters, so that part's ignored. Anyway, out of some of the genetic sludge that spilled out of this process, a mutant was born, Ransik. Rejected by humanity for his deformities, he gathered an army of other mutants and set out to conquer the world as revenge for his treatment. This does beg the question of who Nadira's mother is, but for the moment it shows that Ransik has a different sort of backstory for his actions than previous villains. When Wes asks about it, Jen says that people tried to help him, but he turned them away. It's hard to say how accurate either tale is. We want to believe Jen because she's one of our heroes, but who knows how much prejudice and indoctrination exists in the future. For all we know, helping them might mean forced labor camps away from normal humans. We have no evidence of that.
That or human experimentation.
Jen could be completely serious that Ransik rejected true efforts to help him, but it's certainly something that could have been worth exploring. After an incident with his father, where it's made clear that the dude cares more for his business than the lives of others, Wes leaves his home and moves in with the other Rangers at the clock tower. Secretly, during an episode where Jen attempts to get her revenge on Ransik for killing Alex, we see Frax, Ransik's robotic scientific advisor, swear that one day robots won't be so oppressed. For the next few episodes, it's Frax's machinations for unleashing monsters and robots, but then the subplot seems to be mysteriously dropped. For the moment. Oh, Ransik also has some other henchman whose name I have forgotten. Gluto, I think. He has no impact on anything in the series. In fact, when I came back to do the redo of this video, I completely forgot this character existed. Meanwhile, Wes is...
And actually, yeah, that forgotten character, if I remember correctly, he was the main bad guy in the Sentai. Or at least what I remember. I can't say that for certain, but I'll have to look up the main bad guy from Time Ranger. I'm gonna have to look that up. Yeah. But honestly, yeesh, Ransik's, like I said, at first, a villain with some actual good motivation. Like, seriously. Brought to a life that he never wanted. Like, born from toxic sludge, which, not even sure how that's even possible. Like, what? I mean, it really makes it hard who to believe. Like, we saw the flashback and how people seem to, like, just scream at the sight of him. Like, harsh. Plus, we are having some, like, biased sources, considering Jen lost her fiancé to the guy. So, yeah, hard to say. Who do you guys believe? Do you think he was shunned, or do you think he turned away when people try to help? Which, again, I'm having a hard time believing. Anyway, moving along.
His father constructs a Zord, Rame, to be used to defend Silver Hills and the world at large. Rame is a big friggin' tank that gets blasted pretty quickly, but I like how we see people trying to find new ways to fight the monsters when the Rangers are unable. Meanwhile, in the future, a mysterious person tests the new Zord, the Time Shadow, and sends it back into the past, fighting a lengthy and intensive battle against a giant robot Frax constructed and destroying it. However, the Rangers are unsure of who could have sent the Time Shadow to help them. However, during the next episode, Circuit's historical database indicates no record of the Rame tank, and the Rangers realize that Ransik's presence has altered history, meaning that the world they eventually return to may not be the one they left. And of course, like great Megazords that have come before them, the Time Force and Time Shadow Megazords can be merged to create the Shadow Force Megazord. However, the story of the season made its first major advance in Worlds Apart. Wes's father introduces his own fighting force to combat Ransik, the Silver Guardians. One of their members, Eric, is an old prep school associate of Wes. Wes is especially pissed about this, seeing it as just another part of his father's greed.
All his big plans for me. Even I became just another...
cognitive machine.
Business venture.
Wes tells him some more about Eric, who
good.
always seemed like he had something to prove, and saw prep school as just a bunch of lazy rich kids wasting their time. During a monster attack,
Honestly,
the
if I
Silver
heard that
Guardians
about
and the
the same
Rangers are
school, I
deployed
would've
to
been
the same
like,
area.
wait.
While the Guardians easily walk through the Cyclobots, the monster they're fighting is from the X-Vault, where all the most dangerous criminals in the prison were kept. Frax has gotten a hold of the X-Vault and is privately using them for his own means. After the Guardians fail to stop the monster, Wes takes a blast for the Guardians, both his father and Eric seeing that it's him behind the cracked visor. Mr. Collins briefly confronts his son, trying to tell him that it isn't about the money, but Wes refuses to listen.
I had the perfect future planned out for you.
Your future.
Yeah, your future, not mine.
But now I'm in control of my own future.
And it is very easy to believe that you aren't very trustworthy, dude. You are a CEO. It's very easy to imagine that the Silver Guardians aren't allowed bathroom breaks. At an archaeological dig...
Yeah, I mean, you ain't wrong. I probably think that too, but I probably would have just been like, yeah, can't blame Wes. Like, the father's just playing, like, do this, do that. You better follow my orders. You better follow my plans. Like, yeesh, dude. At least show you care, but apparently not if Wes is acting like this to you. Yeesh. Which, actually, I did a little side-by-side. Like, I saw this video that actually did the scene side-by-side with the Sentai equivalent. And that's not actually that far off. You'd be surprised how often, like, this series actually follows alongside the Sentai footage, you know? I mean, you know what I mean. Aside from the fights, you actually get some, like, really one-to-one, like, you know what I mean, right? I mean, it's crazy like that. You'd be surprised. Anyway, quantum power is coming up.
Big and energy box is discovered that's been in the soil since at least the Jurassic period, as well as cave markings showing a robotic dinosaur. Ransik, seeing the news report on it, recognizes it as part of the Time Force and dispatches a monster to take it, saying that it's the powers of the Quantum Ranger. Oh, and here's something amusing. Before this news report, Nadira is actually watching the Masked Rider show and crying over a tender moment. So I guess Count Dragon got defeated off screen at some point, and Dex sold the rights to his story so it could be fictionalized on TV. Wait, even better, the Masked Rider show isn't canon to Power Rangers. Only the A Friend in Need backdoor pilot happened, then Zordon sold the rights to a TV studio. Why not? He was probably in contact with Nasada, so he could contact others. Rangers, Alpha's salary keeps going up every year, and you're not bringing in the merch revenue you used to. I need to sell some scripts or else we'll never afford the Power Chamber upgrade.
Wow.
As the monster attacks, the Silver Guardians are deployed and engage the Cyclobots. The Rangers arrive as well and get the box away from the monster. Eric, overhearing the monster talking about the Quantum Ranger powers, takes the box and brings it to an industrial site for safekeeping. Eric requests leadership of the Silver Guardians, but Mr. Collins refuses since he doesn't know anything about Eric. Back with the Rangers, Circuit explains that when Time Force was first experimenting with time travel, they sent the Quantosaurus Rex Megazord and the Quantum Controller Box in a test flight, but something went wrong and they were lost in time. The monster detects the quantum controller at the industrial site and the Rangers head out to stop him. Eric refuses to hand the controller over to Wes and puts his hand inside of it, forming the quantum morpher on his arm.
Quantum power! Yeah, that morpher is pretty much voice activated too.
I have never exploded, but I know what it would be like.
Thanks,
Eric
Garth.
tears through the Cyclobots and the monster with his gun, the Quantum Defender. With the quantum powers, God, there's so much quantum in this stuff, you'd think it was Star Trek Voyager. Out of his control, Ransik instead decides to send a monster back in time to retrieve the Q-Rex. The Rangers spot the monster heading off. Apparently, just this one has that ability, though why Ransik hasn't employed it to kill all the Time Force before they're ever born, I couldn't say. It's not like Ransik cares about the sanctity of the time stream or anything. And Eric
Yeah, I mean, you ain't wrong. Like, I'm actually surprised we don't have too many, like, time travel shenanigans. Like, I mean, we do have the one that brought everyone over to present day, 2001. You know the one. But still, kind of strange we don't really go back to the past or maybe even the future too many times. It's kind of weird. Like, you got Time Force in there, but you're not really dealing with a lot of time. You're just dealing with some stuff from the present. I just found that odd. Anyway, I'll have to get the Q-Rex.
Follows in his own vehicle, the TF Eagle. Wes leaps onto the Eagle as it travels into the past. The two get separated after an encounter with a dinosaur. God bless Power Rangers and my ability to write such sentences. Wes goes over a cliff and Eric happens upon the cave where the quantum controller was kept. He realizes from the cave paintings that the Q-Rex is inside a volcano. Wait, who drew those cave paintings? Humans and dinosaurs didn't coexist. Wes and the monster both come upon the Q-Rex, which is active and walking around. Also, no idea how the heck Wes survives to fall off a cliff when there's no indication that he morphed or anything. The monster manages to get to the Q-Rex first as Wes and Eric fight, Eric refusing to let Wes go in after them. The monster sends the Q-Rex into the future as Eric takes off in pursuit of it, at first leaving Wes behind, but then goes back and saves him from the erupting volcano. The Q-Rex goes on a rampage, and the Time Force Megazord heads out to stop it, but even with the assistance of the Time Shadow, the Rangers are no match for the Q-Rex's firepower. However, the Q-Rex is damaged, so it withdraws to initiate self-repairs. Wes tries to convince Eric to give up the morpher to him, but Eric reveals that Mr. Collins is planning to hire the other Time Force Rangers. After all, they're only here to stop Ransik, right? And with Mr. Collins' money and technology, they'd have everything they need to stop him. While Collins goes back to the clock tower to make his pitch, Wes and Eric fight for the quantum morpher. They're interrupted by the return of the Q-Rex. The other Rangers arrive, revealing that they rejected Mr. Collins' offer. Eric, worried about the Rangers' safety, distracts the Q-Rex and destroys the control device, taking control of it himself. The Q-Rex transforms into its Megazord mode and defeats the monster. With the Q-Rex under his control, Eric is given command of the Silver Guardians. Mr. Collins begins having his team research the Quantum Ranger powers so that all of the Silver Guardians can have that technology at their disposal. Which isn't really a thing in this season, but might be an explanation for things down the line. There are a number of filler episodes where Eric appears but doesn't really do much, but we do see shades of a good man behind his brash, angry personality. When Trip scans him telepathically, he does see that he's a decent person, but he's lonely. In the following episode...
Honestly, I think I would have just gone with a little bit hot-headed. Like, seriously. Pretty much just, this is the guy at the prep school, and pretty much just went AWOL to get to the Q-Rex and, well, everything. Ugh. And Wes's dad thought, yeah, this guy will lead the Guardians. Like, dude, really? This guy dumped your group twice for his own gain, and now you want him as leader? Like, not the best idea, to be honest. You know, just not the brightest bulb, huh? Like, jeez, dude. Anyway.
Episode, Jen and Eric finally talk.
We're not your enemies.
You're making them.
You're not my friends either.
While their talk doesn't really go well, Eric does decide to not reveal to Mr. Collins that the Rangers are from the future. During the preceding fight, the mysterious person in the future engages the Mega Battle for the quantum powers, essentially a battleizer mode. Behold, Rangers on rollerblades!
There. Sure glad I don't look stupid in this.
There's a two-part filler episode that I'm sure most people want me to talk about, Movie Madness. It's a fun little affair, mostly because it features Ransik dressing up in Mad Max gear briefly because his actor, Vernon Wells, was more famously in Mad Max 2, The Road Warrior. While I have seen all the Mad Max movies, I more remember him as Bennett in Commando.
Do you know what today is, Matrix?
Ooh, Bennett.
Payday.
However, I'm not really into it. It's harmless fun, and there are amusing bits, but frankly, the only ones that seem to make sense are Jen's love of kung fu movies and Wes's love of westerns. The thing is, sure, these kind of things are cute and all, but I prefer these kind of weird stories reveal more about the characters, some insight into the kinds of people they are, what they enjoy, and what shape the kind of person they are. However, the genres picked for most seem pretty superfluous, especially the odd choice of Katie and romantic musicals.
A strange way to meet.
Well, it's hardly worth it, but boo!
Sure, people can have diverse tastes, but Katie's never expressed any sentiment before this that she enjoyed them, and she doesn't really say anything about it that informs her character. The episode is fluff. It's fun fluff with some neat callbacks to our villain actor's illustrious career. In an episode called Time Force Traitor, we learn that Jen's first partner used to be a mutant called Steelix. Steelix was bribed by Ransik and other criminals to reveal classified Time Force files before Jen found out, and he sworn revenge, especially because he used to be called Onyx until he had to wear a metal coat. However, while it serves mostly as filler, the more interesting thing we learn is that the mysterious man who sent the Time Shadow to the Rangers is in fact Captain Logan's superior. We still don't know who he is or if Logan knew that it was him who sent the Time Shadow, but it does raise several questions. At the end of the episode, the mysterious man finally speaks.
I'm afraid the future is shifting. It may be time for me to get involved.
It took about 15 episodes, but we finally resume Frax's own efforts to overthrow Ransik and destroy the Rangers. Frax heads into the X-Vault and retrieves a mutant who starts infecting people with the mutation that's affecting Ransik. Venomark. Ransik explains his history with Venomark and how he came to get treatment for his condition.
Surely would have been the end of me had not a most foolish and naive doctor stopped to help me.
The doctor, Louis Frax, is also the inventor of the Cyclobots and takes Ransik back to his lab. However, because of Ransik's mutant DNA, he's gonna need to take the serum for the rest of his life.
Why would you, a human, help me?
Humans, mutants, robots, it makes no difference to me.
Ransik instead decides to burn down the doctor's lab and steal all the serum that he had. God, and Ransik called me a jackass once. I'm not kidding. At Power Morphicon 2010, Vernon Wells called me a jackass. You know, I was really trying not to self-promote and that looked like a jackass.
Jackass, what you
Honestly, one of the highlights of my career as a YouTuber. Venomark is
a... Nice. I mean, you gotta admit, that was just... okay. Not sure how to feel about that. Like cool he recognizes you, but not sure if he... I hope that was just a jest. You're like, yeah, yeah, you kind of did. Jeez, but still, oof. I mean, again, hard to say if, say Ransik actually did blow up the lab. Did he? Or did someone, did he take the fall for someone? That begs the question. Was he blamed for it? I mean, again, we got, unreliable sources, considering we got Ransik here, you know? When we saw how he was treated, Jen was saying, you know, people tried to help him, but again, we can't really say for sure, which I gotta admit, this is actually pretty interesting. Anyway.
He's extraordinarily fast and is able to bite all the Rangers except Wes, who is saved by Ransik, though probably unintentionally. Ransik engages Venomark and corners him, but the mutations start up again before he can finish the job. Wes retrieves part of the serum that Ransik spilled and brings it to his father for mass production. His father, of course, sees it as a money-making opportunity, but produces more than enough serum, and Wes takes some back to heal the other Rangers. We also get to see some more good bits from Eric, who helps an old lady who's infected with the bite. After a Zord battle, Venomark is defeated. Back at Ransik's base, he enters his office to discover all the vials of serum but one have been destroyed by Frax. Frax reveals that he's what remains of Dr. Frax, having just barely survived Ransik's attack and having converted his broken, burnt body into a cybernetic form, although they keep referring to him as a full robot.
And I made a vow to one day get revenge!
Okay, but why did you build your face so that it would open up with the eyes like that? Frax gleefully destroys the last vial of serum and escapes, Ransik in pursuit with Cyclobots and a monster. Of course, the Cyclobots have no desire to find him, and surprisingly, the future guy is watching them. Meanwhile, the changes in the timeline are starting to pile up, particularly the fact that the serum wasn't supposed to be invented for another 200 years. Wes volunteers to go retrieve it from his father's lab, but fails. Then again, I'm not sure how he planned to retrieve it all, since it's been widely distributed and mass-produced by the company, and stealing one case of it probably isn't enough. Frax, meanwhile, constructs a new lab and starts assembling a giant robot. Future Guy continues to watch. Learning of the lab creating the serum, Ransik heads in with a full attack force to retrieve it, walking through the Silver Guardians. Ransik starts to mutate differently as blades pop out of his arms. I mean,
and apparently his head, from what I saw.
Swords out of his bones. Mr. Collins spots Ransik taking the serum.
If I'd known that serum could help you, I would have poured it down the drain myself.
Ransik and Mr. Collins have a back and forth, with the villain even berating him for throwing his son out of his life. However, Mr. Collins fires back that he's proud of his son for making his own destiny, which earns him a direct blast of energy to the face, a scientist watching all of this go down. Ransik gets away as Mr. Collins is taken to the hospital, Eric accompanying the ambulance. Back in the year 3000, Future Guy grabs a Time Force uniform and heads into the past. And much to the shock and amazement of the Rangers,
history's already shifted, and I'm here to set it back on track.
Alex says there isn't much time to explain, though he does say that he barely survived the fight with Ransik. He leads the team to a time shift while Mr. Collins is operated on in the emergency room. Alex decides that the first order of business is to be a jerk.
Your actions here have caused history to be altered. And now these shifts are beginning to affect the future.
He tells them about Frax and then says he's taking over as the Red Ranger. What's more, Wes's destiny is to take over his father's company.
You'll fulfill your destiny and take over Biolab. Because your father will die tomorrow.
Eric calls Wes and tells him about his dad's condition, which isn't good. He reluctantly surrenders the Red Ranger morpher and heads out to be with his father. Alex orders the Rangers back into their Time Force uniforms and berates them for wasting their time.
Now put on your uniforms. You all look ridiculous.
Big talk for someone who's sporting the rich douchebag who slicks back his hair because he thinks his forehead is impressive look. Jen wants to know what's going on, but he says he needs to put aside his feelings for the moment since their mission is more important. But doesn't explain why he didn't tell Jen he was still alive. Alex leads them to a beach where something crashes into the water and the team summons their Megazords. Frax's robot emerges from the water and the Rangers engage it. Wes takes over his father's company and attends a board meeting, much to Eric's irritation. Eric heads out of the board meeting to help the Rangers, launching the Q-Rex against the robot. While the robot is powerful, it withdraws when the Q-Rex manages to partially damage it. While Eric decides to leave the city, for undisclosed reasons, maybe he thinks he should be the one to run the company, even though he's not on the business side. The scientist who was in the room when Ransik shot his dad tells Wes about how proud his father is of him for choosing his own path. As Frax's robot...
Actually, that's fair, but... Actually, let me point something out. Like, you know how Eric had that birdcage? Yeah, I think that was actually a nod to the Sentai, because the original, like in the original Sentai, yeah, the Sixth Ranger dies. Like, I'm not kidding. You thought it was just Burai? No. Like, Timefire actually died too. Like, I'm not kidding. Like, I think it was like one of the monsters, like it was a sniper, but I can't say for sure because I don't remember much. Because, again, before I became a Sentai fan. So, yeah, and ironically, I think it was from him seeing the birdcage that he actually did get shot. You know? Just look up Timefire, or at least Time Ranger Timefire, you'll understand. Okay? I'm just saying, you'd be surprised what happens. Anyway, moving on.
Drains the Megazord's power, Wes walks out of his limo and heads to the clock tower. Frax uses a device to drain the Rangers' powers, and Circuit arrives to help, but is blasted. Our robot buddy makes it back to the clock tower and tells Wes about what happened before shutting down.
I choose my own destiny.
Yeah, did you
right now?
I gotta see
to help my friends.
The others finally confront Alex about his behavior.
The team is strongest this way.
No! We're strongest with Wes. If you were a real leader, you'd see that.
Before Frax can blast them, Wes tackles him and takes out the device that was draining their powers. Alex gives up the chronomorpher to Wes, and the Rangers remorph to fight the robot. Alex, in the meantime, goes to Mr. Collins and uses a device to heal him. Eric, passing by in his taxi, sees the Rangers fighting the robot and runs off to join them. The Rangers successfully defeat the robot, and Wes runs off to see his dad, Eric giving him a ride back to the hospital. With Mr. Collins recovered, the two talk for a bit.
I don't want you to be a businessman for my sake. Your place is with the Rangers.
Aww.
Alex decides to depart, apologizing for being a douche nozzle. This still begs the question of why, if they have a functioning time ship, they don't send reinforcements and equipment to help them, but hey, everyone parts on good terms. In a filler episode...
You know, I always found that odd. Like, it was pretty much like... Okay, I'll be real, like... When I was watching that, I was expecting him to be like, surprise, eventually a monster for the future, I'm gonna destroy you all. But no, turned out same guy. Eesh, and Jen's like, I fell in love with this asshole. Like, I'll be real, I was kind of expecting him to turn out to be one of Ransik's monsters, but nope. Just him, the original Red. Who knew? I mean, like I said, I was kind of expecting him to turn out to be like a monster. Like, I don't know why. I just kind of expected that. Was anyone else? Or is that just me? I don't know. Anyway.
Right afterwards, Jen admits something to herself.
Alex has changed so much, but so have I. Nowadays, Alex isn't in my heart the way he used to be.
Yeah, I've been leaving it out, but essentially there's been some relationship building between Jen and Wes, who's equally interested in her. With Alex back in the future, he sends new toys for kids to buy. Following that filler, there's another filler involving a time-traveling Black Knight. Its significance is that he holds a mystic box that Wes is able to open and claim its power, becoming the Red Battle Warrior. Yep, it's Wes's battleizer, and for the first time, it doesn't look absolutely silly. Well, except for the little flame wings on the back, but otherwise it's knight armor on top of the ranger suit. Following the filler, the next episode begins in a cemetery.
Vipers?
Huh. Last I remember, she was absorbed into Banshira and not buried. Hey, she is a demon. Hey, maybe in the intervening time, someone taught her how to act.
The time has come for revenge.
Well, sometimes you work with what you got. Actually, to be perfectly honest, her acting is much improved, aside from a few moments, and the makeup is especially good, adding new contact lenses that give her pale eyes. Vipra makes her way to the Silver Hills Museum and tries to retrieve a crystal from the glass.
What do you expect was gonna happen?
Curses.
Damn, foiled by easily breakable glass! However, she tripped the silent alarm and the Silver Guardians arrive. She easily takes out the Silver Guardians and teleports away. Vipra travels to Ransik, somehow knowing who the hell he is, and asks him to retrieve the solar amulet from the museum.
The solar amulet will have the power to release Quarganon, a super demon.
The Rangers wait outside the museum and Ransik heads in. However, Vipra stops our heroes from entering, having her forces fight them while Ransik retrieves the crystal. The Rangers are forced to demorph as the villains teleport away. However, a very familiar-looking Jeep pulls up to them.
You're gonna need my help.
Hey, Carter!
And who are you?
Carter Grayson, Lightspeed Racing Red Ranger.
Carter is brought back to the clock tower and explains the situation to the others. We also learn what the Lightspeed Rangers have been up to as Carter calls them back into action. Dana's a doctor, Joel and Dr. Fairweather got married and he refuses to have their honeymoon interrupted.
He'll be right there.
Kelsey is doing what she always did, and Chad is a lifeguard.
I'm all over.
My save. Vipra starts the spell, but Carter and Wes head in to interrupt it, grabbing the amulet and running off.
I thought
Vipra's stupid car is back as well. What, did that thing crawl out of the grave too? And she chases after them, disabling the rescue jeep. They're cornered by Vipra, but before Carter can destroy the amulet, Nadira shows up with the other Rangers captured somehow. Vipra finishes the ceremony, summoning the super demon. However...
Hey, good timing, guys! Shush!
Ransik says they can deal with 10 Rangers.
Might want to make it 12.
You mean 12? By the way, we're here now, even though I wasn't in the episode earlier.
I've been waiting for this. For a long, long time.
Yeah, all of a year. Everybody morphs with a pretty good instrumental rendition of the Lightspeed theme behind them as it goes. I admit, it would have been better if they had used both theme songs properly like they had done in the last two team-ups, but this is still an awesome moment and a good episode. While the two teams aren't as in sync as the Space and Galaxy Rangers, the fights are still pretty good. The combined battleizer weapons managed to destroy Vipra and the Super Demon in a rather underwhelming explosion. They bring the Lightspeed Rangers back to the clock tower.
I thought you guys came from the future. This place looks kind of...
Watch it, Boyle.
Ah, I see Joel's natural charm hasn't changed. As a token of appreciation to each other, the groups give each other's uniforms to their opposite number, and we even see the Time Force team doing the Lightspeed morphing pose. Time for Lightspeed isn't as good as to the 10th power, of course, but then again, those were some pretty big shoes to fill. However, it was leagues above Trakina's Revenge, simply by having the episode focus on the Rangers and the returning villain instead of a one-off little girl. Interestingly, if you break it down, it's kind of a do-over of Trakina's Revenge. Old villain is inexplicably alive again. Former team's Red Ranger comes to stop them and spends the most time with the new team before everyone teams up to destroy the old villain, who has teamed up with the new one. I've read that there were apparently some rewrites and cuts, including that there was now a second Lightspeed Aquabase and that Ryan was in command of it. We don't know what happened to Captain Mitchell, though his actor is the voice of the Super Demon. And we never learn how and when Ryan met up with Eric, how Carter knew about Vipra's return, or how he knew who the Time Force Rangers were. I suppose it's possible that Lightspeed and the government just keep tabs on this and could probably work out who it was through deduction and whatnot, but it's not made clear. The ending is a bit anticlimactic, especially with how they built up the super demon, and I really think this should have been a two-parter, but for what we got, it was good. There seemed to be a shift in Eric's personality after he stopped himself from leaving, though what exactly inspired this change, I can't be certain. He was more willing to help the Rangers and started going off on his own without the backup of the Silver Guardians to aid him. Sure, he had always helped the Rangers in a pinch, but he wasn't as rude and standoffish towards them anymore. It's kind of subtle, and I do compliment the creators on it if that was their intention. In the filler episode, Circuit Unsure, we learn that Circuit is capable of peering into the future, and from the prodding of the others, he looks ahead 1 month and sees several portals, or time holes as they're later called, opening up over Silver Hills. However, before he can tell the Rangers about it, Alex suddenly cuts off access to the knowledge, claiming later that the knowledge would jeopardize their mission. I should also note that this was also the episode dedicated to the memory of Tui Trang, the original Yellow Ranger. The penultimate episode before...
Oof, yeah, or Tui, or Trini. But yeah, I mean, fair enough. Knowing too much about the future would ruin things. Like, seriously, like how they would try to prevent it. But I guess it's the whole, like, if you know too much, or at least try to stop it, you'd cause it to, like, happen anyway. You know, that kind of deal. But it's weird, I gotta say. Anyway, move along. Got nothing else.
Before the finale is A Calm Before the Storm. Ransik, to his frustration, has discovered that he has no more mutants to send against the Rangers. The Rangers realize this as well and are excited by the prospect of going home soon, save for one of them.
Don't tell me that you're gonna miss this drafty old clock tower.
Actually, there's a lot I'm gonna miss.
At Biolabs, they've discovered that a byproduct of their research can be formed into a powerful crystal, one that consequently powers Frax's new robot. Eric informs the Rangers, and they're worried since the crystal isn't supposed to be discovered for another 100 years. I should note that a good chunk of the episode is a clip show. However, it's a clip show done well, since there's actually a lot of its own plot to deal with, and it serves as character development too. Wes reveals to his father that the Rangers are from the future and that he has to stop the research into the crystal. What I really like is that Mr. Collins is clearly thinking about it, and their relationship has changed since the show began.
I gotta go, Dad.
Go get him.
Turns out the attack is by Frax and his robot. After Eric defeats the robot, Ransik starts hunting for Frax's base, and Mr. Collins hands over the crystals to Wes. However, at the end of the episode, they get a call from Alex.
According to the history banks, you save the future, but you don't survive to make it back.
The season comes to a close in the three-parter, The End of Time. So the Doctor travels back to Earth to confront the Master, who has been resurrected by a cult of his former...
wrong end of time.
Wrong notes here. This is for the Doctor Who retrospective, if I ever get $6,000 on Patreon. Alex explains that while the details are unclear, there is a chance to save them. He's going to send the time ship to take the four back to the future and leave Wes alone to confront the oncoming threat.
And Wes... I'm sorry.
Wait, you're Wes's descendant. How do you get born if he dies before having kids? Or does Wes have some kid from a college fling he's unaware of? Ransik, meanwhile, dispatches every Cyclobot under his control to find Frax. The other Rangers tell Wes that they refuse to return to the future.
If you can make your own destiny,
so can we.
Frax creates one final robot. Meanwhile, Trip and Nadira get into a fight at a clothing store, but they make a truce when a pregnant woman goes into labor. Trip forces Nadira to help, and seeing the new child makes her wonder if maybe humans aren't so bad after all. Then she notices the poop and afterbirth and decides that they are awful. Nah, of course not. Nadira asks her father why they hate humans so much, but they're interrupted when Frax's base is discovered in the first, and I think only one of 2 times, maybe, we ever see the Cyclobots speak. Cyclobots must be based on Quantrons, I guess. Ransik confronts Frax, and he's recaptured. Seeing the giant robot, Ransik gets an idea. Nadira, in the meantime, starts playing with some children at the park. Alex orders Jen to leave, but she shuts off the transmission. Nadira goes to the imprisoned Frax and asks why humans and mutants hate each other. He explains the cycle of hatred. Humans hating Ransik, Ransik hating humans, and thus trying to kill him. He, in turn, dedicates himself to killing Ransik, etc. Nadira, however, wonders if she hates humans.
Don't make me laugh. You're an evil mutant with a heart as black as coal, just like your father.
The Cyclobots enter and take Frax away, but...
I'm sorry for what my father did to you, Dr. Ferrix.
Upon that expression of humanity, Frax pleads that it's not too late to break the cycle as he's dragged off. Later, Frax is reprogrammed by Ransik to be completely obedient and robotic, much to Nadira's horror. Wes goes to his father.
In case anything happens in the future, I just want you to know how proud I am to be your son.
After going to the time ship, Wes spots the autopilot for the ship. Meanwhile, Frax is turned into the robot's pilot and dispatched. The time holes begin appearing all over the city, and the Rangers quickly head out to deal with everything. Wes, however, stays behind for a moment to study the manual for the ship's autopilot. The Q-Rex engages the robot, and because of the time holes, they can't send the Megazord, though the time ship can still go through. Circuit's analysis indicates the special crystals from the clip show that power both machines are what are causing the time holes to open. Even though the holes started opening before they started fighting each other. Yeah, I guess the crystals make weird things happen when they get closer to each other, but why didn't this happen in the previous episode when the Q-Rex was fighting another robot powered by them? And again, the holes just started forming up before this fight. Yeah, time shenanigans, maybe effect precedes cause. It just seems weird that nobody asks where the time holes came from before Circuit just flies in to mention this. Seems like a plot point and explanation pulled out of the show's own time hole. Anyway, Eric refuses to withdraw the Q-Rex or else the city will be destroyed. Wes says he has an idea on how to use the time ship and brings the Rangers back to it. However, he then activates the autopilot. Before Jen can say that she loves him, the time ship takes off for the year 3000, ending part 1. Wes returns to the battle as the Q-Rex is defeated, Eric crawling out of the wreckage. The Cyclobots close in on him, but Wes comes to his rescue.
I was mad. Just fine, thanks.
Sure.
Wes finally asks him what his deal is, that he's just been a jerk to him while he's never done anything but try to be a friend to him. Eric explains that it's mostly about Wes's privilege, that he's lived a life where everything was handed to him. Eric was dirt poor and had to fight his entire life without any help to reach any kind of success. He says the two of them have nothing in common, but Wes rejects that both of them fought to change their destinies.
We are Power Rangers, Eric. And friends or not, we're the only hope this city has right now.
The Rangers arrive in the year 3000.
Now that you're home, you can relax. Enjoy the life you left behind.
Mr. Collins is informed by his head scientist about how the crystals are responsible for the time holes, and he arrives to help people who have been injured in the fight as he searches for Wes, even giving up the limo to get people to a hospital. Alex informs the others that Wes didn't survive the fight, but he did win.
Jen, I know, this must hurt.
No.
But after you go through memory adaptation,
memory adaptation?
Yeah, they're gonna erase their memories of being in the past. And that's standard procedure for Time Force. And they apparently didn't know that. Weird. Wes brings Eric back to the clock tower, but a Cyclobot spots them, Ransik leading his forces in an attack on the place. The Cyclobots storm in and they fight our heroes. They're vastly outnumbered, though I've gotta say, they put up a damn good fight. Really impressive choreography for this. Wes grabs one of the Rangers' guns and starts shooting down the Cyclobots, but realizing the situation is hopeless, he sets the gun on overload, and then this. Awesome. Mr. Collins has been searching for his son through the night, finally reuniting with the two. Eric spots a Cyclobot about to shoot them, and he takes the blast for them, handing over the Quantum Morpher to Wes as Mr. Collins takes him to safety. Wes charges in against the Cyclobots unmorphed, just to show his badassitude, as the other Rangers are about to have their memories erased. They start thinking about how much they admired and loved Wes, so before Alex can begin the process, the Rangers walk out and tell Alex to blow it out his own time hole. They refuse to have their memories altered and intend to go back to help Wes. Jen hands her engagement ring back over to Alex, who lets them pass and says they should bring the Megazord with them despite the risks. In the meantime, Wes has finally morphed, though surrounded by hundreds of Cyclobots, he's still outnumbered and outgunned. Part 2 ends with the other Rangers charging in to go back, soon arriving in time to save him at the beginning of Part 3. They manage to destroy the robotic forces and reunite, Wes having an idea on how to save the city. Nadira asks her father why they can't just leave at this point, but Ransik says that he won't go until all the humans are destroyed. The Rangers adapt the Quantum Defender to disable the crystals, and using it on both the Q-Rex and Frax's robot to disable them, and of course, destroying the enemy robot. In the blast, Frax is killed as well. Nadira finally calls out her father on his cold, callous behavior, and he tosses her aside, enraged by the loss of all his forces and the insubordinate words of his daughter. The Rangers move to face Ransik head-on. However, he just storms through them, hitting them hard enough to demorph them, save for Wes, who initiates his battleizer. However, Ransik still manages to fight him off too, leading to this.
Whoa! Jesus!
Let off some steam, Bennett.
He survives, though.
That's never gonna heal if you don't stop picking.
Jen stands against Ransik.
My mission is to bring you back. I'm going to do it!
The rest of the Rangers are unable to stand with her, so she runs off, telling Ransik to come after her. He pursues, but it's also where Nadira is helping to protect a baby who was in the crossfire. When he spots some movement, he blows up where he saw it, but then Jen manages to blast Ransik from behind, who discovers to his horror that he's accidentally shot Nadira. She's alive, but upon realizing what his hatred for humans almost cost him, Ransik finally surrenders to the Rangers. Wes says his farewell to the Rangers, the Silver Guardians there to see them off. It's very heartfelt, and the music is really good. I sadly can't really show much of it because, you know, content ID.
Don't ever forget me.
Kiss! Never could. You too, kiss!
As the Rangers leave, Mr. Collins declares that he's going to have the Silver Guardians defend the entire city for free and wants Wes to lead them. Wes agrees, but only if Eric can stay on as his partner and co-leader.
I think the future looks pretty bright.
It's just looking bright now.
The end of the episode also has a brief preview for the next season, but that's not what we're here to talk about. I'll bring it up again next time. Time Force is a very good series, but I think a lot of the fan base has overblown it a bit. Acting-wise, everybody turns in a very good performance for their characters, save for Lucas, but I'll get to that when we get to the characters. The story moves at a very good pace, but there are some issues that are never properly addressed in the series. A few holes in logic that really just make you scratch your head. One of the things that people said about the series to me was that Ransik is so sympathetic. Except he isn't. Ransik isn't some glorious freedom fighter trying to help mutant kind have better lives. We're not talking about Magneto here. Ransik just wants to cause general anarchy, chaos, and destruction. He never talks about trying to help make things better for mutants, nor do we see any evidence that he's anything other than a criminal. We don't really see why that is either. Now, he says it's because humanity shunned him, but that's completely contrary to the flashback with Frax. A human displays immense kindness to him and provides a treatment for his condition, caused by a fellow mutant, I should add. And what does Ransik do? Laughs that the guy is a fool and burns down his lab with the intent of killing him. There's a difference between having a sympathetic backstory and actually being sympathetic. Ransik has a sympathetic backstory, shunned for being different. However, his consistently awful behavior completely justifies people's fears about him. We don't have a lot of nuance or any reason to really take his side or wonder if maybe he has a point about how sucky humanity is. Frax, on the other hand, has a sympathetic backstory, and it could be argued that he's a lot more of a sympathetic character. When he was rebuilt as a robot, one could say that, to paraphrase Doctor Who again, his very soul was surgically removed. You see flashes of humanity in Frax, particularly near the end when Nadira apologizes to him for everything that's happened to him and even calls him by his human name. There is no such humanization, for lack of a better term, for Ransik until the very end. His only humanizing factor is his love for his daughter, and seeing that he almost hurt her in his blind rage. It's a bit anticlimactic, but I give it points for being different than just shooty bang bang to resolve everything, especially since we had a bunch of big spectacle battles already. At first I thought that the relationship between Nadira and Ransik was just off-kilter comic relief, but in all honesty, he's a very unique father. Sure, he was always spoiling her, but then in the episode Nadira's Dream Date, we see something you wouldn't normally expect. Nadira gets the wrong impression that Lucas is in love with her, and while Ransik is at first irritated by this news, his daughter's happiness is paramount. He goes to Lucas and, threatens him to treat her right, but then actually helps him on the date, and when his monster attacks, he actually interferes in the fight to tell it and the Cyclobots to not attack Lucas. Yes, he loves his daughter so much that he was willing to put aside his hatred for the Rangers, well, one Ranger at least, in order to keep Nadira happy. Like I said, in a normal situation, he'd forbid her to see him, probably try to kill him for daring to pursue a relationship with her, etc., etc. As such, while it's kind of a silly, stupid filler episode, it helps build the idea that he does care about her more than anything else. Something else.
You know, actually, the whole, villain, hero relationship, sure, there is the anime that, follows that kind of trend. The whole, I think it was, Love After World Domination, I think? Or, I'm pretty sure that was the name. Sorry, I'm just doing a quick search real fast to see if I'm right about that, but like I said, been wrong before. Let's see. Nation thing. Yep. Oh. Oh yeah, I was right. Cool. Anyway, so like I said, there is the anime love after world domination, but that's not the only case. We actually see that in Car Rangers, I think. Though I'm not sure on the same level. I'm gonna have to look that one up, but yeah, you'd be surprised. Not the first time. But still, to see Ransik be like, oh yeah, hey, sorry, go. Like, dude, what did I say about hurting the Blue Ranger? What are you doing? You can imagine like Ransik actually doing that. I mean, like I said, does have some humanic moments. Humanic, is that even a word? Moving on.
Else different in the season that really made me raise an eyebrow was how the Time Force was vehemently against killing monsters. Mind you,
yeah, true. They just refreeze
monsters in the same way they were in the old days, but mutants, which could mean they're severely mutated humans or just some other form of life. But it's considered immoral to kill them, as demonstrated in Jen's Revenge when a mutant continually insults her over the supposed death of Alex and she's ready to kill it. Mind you, it undercuts your message a bit when you freeze them the exact same way that you destroy them, i.e. shooting them a whole bunch, but hey, the morality of it is brought up. Another point that people bring up about the series is that it brings up racism because of the people's reaction to Ransik and the mutants at large. Sadly, I must again disagree. Racism, in one allegory or another, is brought up all of once. Trip Takes a Stand, which features a mutant that was in the cryo prison for petty theft and doesn't want to fight, but just to stay in the prison so he doesn't have to worry about feeding himself or the like. Great, even in the year 3000, there's no universal basic income. If they had done some more with that, more episodes centering around prejudice in some regard, where we saw mutants being oppressed and Wes against what would be normal attitudes in the year 3000 or something like that, I may have bought into it, but we're given no reason to believe that mutants aren't treated fairly, especially when we see 2 episodes where mutants do have equal rights and they're squandered. One was Jen's former partner, and the other was in The Last Race, where we had one that seemed like an ordinary sort of person, except he was determined to race fast cars and defeat Lucas at racing and didn't much care about causing destruction or anything. Consequently, credit where credit is due for giving us a believable reason why the main villain only sends out one monster at a time. Ransik is powerful, yes, but if he unleashed the full amount of mutants in the prison at once, it's very likely they would have gone, well, why the heck should we follow your orders when we outnumber you 100 to 1? Lucas is the least developed, so we'll talk about him first. His character basically revolved around his driving and his quote-unquote coolness. He's popular with women, he acts suave, and cares a lot about his appearance. However, he undergoes no significant change. He just retains his basic nobility like with the other Rangers. Trip is kind, trusting, compassionate, but a little ditzy and clumsy. As the kindest, it also makes sense that it was his intervention that caused Nadira's change of heart about humanity. He is brave and is willing to sacrifice himself to protect the innocent, as he did during the aforementioned episode with the petty criminal mutant who wanted to be frozen again. His telepathy was useful, though underutilized in my humble opinion. It seemed like he would be the most useful in hunting down Ransik, though I can't recall a single instance where the Rangers actively attempted to locate the cryo prison and go after him. Katie is my favorite character of the Time Force, but also sadly underdeveloped. She had a very good episode dedicated to her character development, Future Unknown, where Circuit first reveals that time is changing thanks to their actions. Before that point, Katie had been confident, friendly, and rather unsubtle in facing off against what she saw as injustice. Future Unknown caused her to start rethinking her actions out of fear that the alterations to history would prevent her from being reunited with her family. I should note, though, that apparently some episodes were shown in the wrong order, and an episode where she went back in time and made some minor alterations deliberately was shown after Future Unknown, making it rather head-scratching given how she was previously emotionally paralyzed from doing any action out of fear of changing the timeline. And then she goes back in time and beats up some bullies and tells a guy to get his crap together, even though history says he wasn't supposed to. Nah, the space-time continuum can ram it. Which leads into a gripe with the series I have regarding the time travel. Repeatedly we're told that their actions are altering history, and we do hear of some specific examples, like the Silver Guardians or the Rame tank, but when Alex says that they've done serious damage to the future, We never learn what that means exactly. His character acts differently, and it doesn't seem like that he would have survived his injuries he sustained from Ransik, but the only answer that would have made sense to me is that the timeline changes actually brought him back to life. Maybe altered his personality, but that's never said. Would have made a heck of a kicker, though, making the Rangers question their actions about what they should or shouldn't be doing. But then it doesn't really make sense, since if he was never killed by Ransik, why didn't he accompany the team back in time? Or if it changed him to just being severely injured, why wasn't he in any other communication with the team prior to this? Why keep his survival a secret for so long? Why keep any information about changes to the timeline secret from them? They need to know this stuff if they're going to prevent it. Jen was serious-minded, a leader, and a skilled fighter. Definitely a change from the traditional Pink Ranger, who's usually the happy-go-lucky type. While there was always confusion about whether or not it was Wes or Jen who was the leader, even if Wes was supposed to lead, Jen was at least second in command, and tended to be the one who actually was trying to push them to complete their missions. Her relationship with Wes is built up over time and very well done, though that's gotta be kinda creepy, like dating a younger version of your boyfriend's grandfather. It's still kinda squicky, even if he is so far removed from Alex. She started off as the most determined to bring Ransik to justice, and the easiest one to get rattled because of the loss of Alex. By the end, she's not exactly lighthearted, but she is more inclined to have some fun with her teammates. Wes, when he started, was just average, a bit fun-loving, but had a good heart. However, learning of all the possibilities of the future, as well as seeing what kind of man his father was at first, was what put him on the course to alter his destiny. He didn't change very much, but he definitely grew more confident and learned that people aren't always what they seem, as he learned from his father, from Eric, and possibly even from Ransik at the end. Or next season, but we'll get to that. Eric, of course, started out with a chip on his shoulder and always determined to do things his way. Envious, jealous, headstrong, and as a result, he made for an anti-heroic foil for the Rangers. Like I said earlier, I'm not sure what it was that caused him to mellow out in the latter half of the season, but it was gradual and he did actually care about the Rangers' safety, even if he didn't want to admit it. Something of interest to note is that apparently originally Alex was going to be the Quantum Ranger. I've read that he would travel back in time and Wes and Alex were supposed to be played by twins. The idea was changed, of course, and all the better, I think. Another thing to note is that originally Eric was supposed to die like his Sentai counterpart. They even filmed the beach scene at the end of Time Force without him before it was changed around to him surviving. Apparently with the popularity of the season, combined with how well the production crew and cast gelled, there were some talks about another season with this team being produced, possibly even another movie, but it didn't end up happening, possibly due to fears of a then upcoming Screen Actors Guild strike. It was apparently a rather expensive series, thanks to the production having to close down some sections of LA during filming of the more elaborate battles to match the Sentai footage as closely as they could. Some speculated that alterations to the series were made after 9/11 to make Ransik seem less sympathetic since he is essentially a terrorist, but the truth is most of the series was completed and aired before 9/11. The only real changes done were visual edits, like anytime skyscrapers were under attack, a shot of building explosions changed to a rock quarry, and even the Time Shadow Megazord standing on top of two towers changed in reruns to a shot of the Q-Rex Megazord mode instead. Overall, Time Force succeeded because the story was entertaining, the acting was above average for Power Rangers, owed to many of the cast having previous acting credits under their belts, and the action was good. The series is, of course, about predestination versus free will. Do we have control over our destiny, or in fact, should we have control over our destiny? Ultimately, the decision is free will, damn the consequences, but that's hurt by the fact that, as I said, we don't see any actual damage to the future that this is supposedly causing. Still, the idea of overcoming adversity and deciding for oneself who they are and what their ultimate fate is very much a part of the season, and probably helps secure its position as one of the most beloved in all of Power Rangers. It's a great, entertaining ride from start to finish, and I enjoyed it immensely. If you think this is the best season, more power to you. However, this is a biased perspective, as I said from the start, and while I think it's a good series, there are better. Next season is not better than Time Force, but I do think it's a good series, and I'll tell you why when we see the Guardians of the Earth unite in Power Rangers Wild Force.
Yep, time to go wild on the bad guys, or in this case, orcs. So we'll see you guys when we head over to Wild Force. So yeah, I'll see you guys then. Till then, thanks for watching, everybody. Till next time, like, subscribe for more. See ya.